Hi, thanks for joining me. This video will be discussing spousal sponsorships, specifically for those applicants who've received the removal order. So do you stay in the country and continue your spousal sponsorship, or do you exit the country? This is a common issue that comes to my desk every day. If you have submitted an inland spousal sponsorship application or are in the process of submitting an inland, and in that time you receive a removal order, my recommendation most of the time is stay in the country. You can have a successful inland spousal sponsorship application even having received a removal order. Ultimately, what will happen is that officer that's reviewing the spousal sponsorship application will ask you to then add documentation, forms, and government fees to address the authorization to return to Canada. So if you have received a removal order, usually it's because it's a failed X application. Perhaps you had a failed refugee case and you've received the removal order, or you've received a failed work permit application and now you found your loved one and you want to get married, file an inland, etc. So long as it's not a ban of any sort, having to add an authorization to return to Canada is relatively straightforward if you do it within Canada. Now, throughout the process, you will be considered illegal in the country. You will have no legal status in this country, but you can still have a successful inland spousal application. The officer that's reviewing that application will wrap it in a bow towards the end. Now, the only thing that I want you to pay attention to is which one came first, the removal order or you submitting the spousal. You always want to be the first. You want to submit the spousal and get the approved in principle, which is that UCI number, that file number, before getting a removal order. If that happens, you hold the upper hand. You can stop the removal proceedings because you have the right to remain in this country until the final decision on the spousal. If a removal order is issued first, you might have to escalate it and file for different types of application. You might have to file for judicial review. You might have to escalate it, pay more legal fees, etc., to stop that removal order so you can remain in the country. And so it could be quite costly for you, and you might lose a lot of sleep because the deportation was issued before you submitted the inland. So a lot of times clients come to me and say, I'm thinking about filing the spousal. And I always tell them, if you're ready, if you love this person, and this is the person you want to be with, there is nothing to think about. You want to submit the inland ASAP before the removal order is issued. Because by submitting that, it stops this officer from deporting you or even initiating the deportation order. And that's critical to your budget as well as your peace of mind. Nonetheless, even if you have a removal order, I would recommend that most likely you should remain in the country and continue with the inland. The alternative would be you having to withdraw the inland, or if you haven't submitted the inland, exiting the country, and still you can have a successful spousal sponsorship application overseas. The problem here now is that you're apart from your loved one. That person, your loved one is in Canada, you're overseas, and a spousal sponsorship nowadays can take 8 to 12 months. Especially if you have a removal order against you, it could take even longer. The downfall of an overseas versus inland, in addition to everything I just stated, is that the chances of you receiving an interview is higher. Why? Because you've been apart for so long. And the whole basis of a spousal sponsorship is to ensure that the applicant's intention is genuine, that it's not just to come back to Canada and live in Canada, but you want to come back to Canada because you love this person, and the reason you want to come back is that Canadian citizen or permanent resident that's sponsoring you, not because you want to live in this country. And so a lot of times when you have a removal order against you is because you've submitted a PR application and you got that rejected, and then you married the Canadian. So the officer wants to know Was this intent of yours to marry this individual genuine, or was it just another way for you to get legal status? If you have questions about authorization to return to Canada in addition with the spousal, give me a call. We're here to help. Thank you, and until next time.